What's good, everybody? I'll start the day off with a passage, James 1:2-8. Faith and wisdom is the title of it. My dear friends, consider yourselves fortunate when all kinds of trials come your way. For you know that when your faith succeeds in facing such trials, the result is the ability to endure. Make sure that your endurance carries you all the way without failing, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. But if any of you lack wisdom, you should pray to God, who will give it to you, because God gives generously and graciously to all. But when you pray, you must believe and not doubt at all. Whoever doubts is like a wave in the sea that is driven and blown about by the wind. If you are like that, unable to make up your mind and undecided in all you do, you must not think that you will receive anything from the Lord. Now, I picked this verse this morning because when I was reading it, it stood out to me. And it stood out to me because I'm always preaching to people, pray. If you need to get sober, pray. If you need to do this, pray. If you need to do that, pray. But the thing is if you're praying and not believing that God is going to take you from whatever you're praying for, or give you whatever you're praying for, then, like it says here, you're like a wave in the sea, just blown and tossed by the wind. You have to trust and believe that God can do whatever you want Him to do. Faith goes a long ways. And I know faith is hard for some people to understand, because I remember I didn't believe at one point. Faith can carry you a long ways. When I say that, you have to trust and believe, though, man. When you pray to God, pray with all thoughts that He can do this. You can't be praying to God, wanting Him to take you from something, and at the same time thinking, well, God can't really handle this problem. This problem is way too big. Or this problem is way too much for God to handle. That's not the case, man. God can handle anything. God is above all, the name above all names. Whatever trials you're going through, whatever trials or temptation or all that you feel like you can't handle, whatever those trials and tribulations names are, God's name is above those names. So you just got to trust and believe. That's all you have to do. When you want to be in control of a situation and you want to think that, I got this or I can do this, and look, if you cannot do anything, God has always done it for you. You may not see it now, but you will eventually. Whatever you've done in your past, whatever you have done that was good, God granted you with that. Whatever you've done in your past that wasn't good, God allowed that to happen to you to build your faith. That's the beauty of it. God's not putting you through things because He doesn't like you. He's putting you through trials and tribulations because He loves you. He wants to build you up. So if you're on drugs, if you have sinful nature, obviously we all have sinful nature, but if you have suicidal thoughts, anxiety problems, stress situations, stressful mindset, it doesn't matter. God can bring you out of it. No medicine that a doctor can prescribe to you is going to bring you away from your sinful nature. And all of us have different types of sin. You can't look at one person and say, oh, well, that person's sin is different from mine, I'm better than them, because that's not the case, man. Everybody struggles with sin in a different way. Everybody's sin is going to be different. But when you trust God can take you out of that sin and you pray about it, you'll be surprised what He can do for you, man. I'm a walking, living testimony of that. I prayed for almost a year straight that God take these drugs from me. And I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you, he did it in a way that most of you probably wouldn't want. I didn't want it, but it happened, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. You see, I gave my life to Christ while I was sitting in jail, in a lockup cell. The thing is in that lockup cell, I was in there with a guy that was in there for murder. I was in there on a drug charge. First of all, if you know anything about being in jail, they categorize you by the crimes that you're in there for. I wasn't supposed to be in that jail cell with that guy because of his charges. But here's the thing about that guy. He had went to a Christian academy growing up. So he knew the Bible through and through. Like he sat there and would tell me stories. Now mind you, I wasn't a believer at this time. He would sit there and tell me stories out of the Bible that he's told them in ways that I could understand, because I never understood the Bible. You know, like I would read it when I was in jail, trying to think, oh, this will get me out of jail, but I didn't believe. But the way he'd tell these stories was so interesting to me, it would stand out. So, with that being said, how he would tell me these stories night after night, and a CO named Brother Man, he was an elder in the church on the outside. The only reason he worked in that jailhouse was so that he could glorify God to the lost. He wasn't there because he needed the money. He was there because that was a great outlet for him to preach to the lost. I respected Brother Man. Anyway, Brother Man was coming down through there telling us a story, and in the process, somebody broke out of a lockup cell. Now, if you've been in jail, you know breaking out of a lockup cell ain't something that's done very much. But this guy breaks out of that lockup cell. He comes screaming, hollering out into the day room. Hollering, and to me, was like a horrifying, just demonic scream. My first thoughts was that guy's possessed. Well, that wasn't my first thoughts, I'm sorry. But Brother Man had to stop telling us this story about the Lord and go over here and subdue this guy. Now, when that happened, that's when my thoughts, that guy's possessed. Because if you'd have heard his scream, when Brother Man put that man to the ground, he was a completely different person. He was scared. He was confused. Like, you could hear it in his voice. What are you doing to me? Oh my God, what happened? What's going on? Like, he did not know what was going on in that time. That's when I realized this guy was possessed. Brother Man is such a strong, he preaches the gospel so strongly. The Lord is with him so much that the devil constantly fights against him. And that was the situation that the devil was fighting against him. At that moment, I dropped to my hands and knees. Excuse me, at that moment, I realized that I'm covered in chill bumps from head to toe. Crying profusely, I mean, tears just rolling down my cheeks. Sweating all over from head to toe profusely, just covered in sweat. And I realized at the same time, I'm realizing all this, I'm on my hands and knees praying right now. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Jesus Christ hit me like a ton of bricks. That's when I gave my life to the Lord. That same night, man, I was picking up my Bible, reading it, understanding stuff that I'd never understood before. Like, it was kind of mind-blowing. Now, when I got out of jail, I was good for 2 months. I met my wife during that 2 months, which is now my wife. I met her within that 2 months, and she met me a sober man. I fell back into the drugs. She was blinded to it. She didn't realize it because she was in love. You know, like, so, with that being said, like, I fell back into the drugs. I got more strung out then than I ever was. Because, see, I made a promise to God when I gave my life to the Lord that I wouldn't sell any more drugs. But that was the way Satan used me. Used my mindset against me. Yeah, I wouldn't sell no more drugs, but when I got out, Satan whispered to me, oh, well, you promised you wouldn't sell drugs. You didn't promise you wasn't going to do them. So, I didn't sell drugs, but I started doing them. Now, when I started doing them and not selling them, well, look here, I got strung out bad. Because I didn't have no overhead. I didn't have to make money off of this. I could just do it. And boy, I was out there. I got to where I was smoking about an 8-ball a day. And every time I was getting high, I would pray and I would cry. And I would beg the Lord to take this from me. Use these drugs to bring me closer to you, was the exact prayer I prayed all the time. Now, with that being said, I had some previous drug charges from 2015. And so when I prayed that, I went into probation one day to check in. At this point, my wife and I, my girlfriend at the time, and I were broke up. We were done. I was packing my stuff, getting ready to go. She picks me up from home, takes me to probation. They locked me up on previous drug charges. They revoked my bond on them. Now, with that being said, I'm sitting in jail with no bond. I have the opportunity to give my life back to the Lord. I did that. I studied my Bible. I got right with God again. And I got out and I've been sober since. The Lord blessed me in that situation. My public defender come to me and offered me 15-year plea. I turned him down, obviously. I told my wife, which, like I said, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was 3 months pregnant with my baby. I told my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, and she went and hired a lawyer. The lawyer got me 8 years suspended to 2 years probation. That was a blessing because I'm now off of probation. I'm good. I'm completely free from all things that has to do with charges and everything. I have nothing over my head anymore. I'm a free man. Not only with charges, but from the world. I'm free from the world because of the precious blood of Jesus Christ. I love my Lord for what He's done for me. And trust and believe, if you got some stuff going on in your life, you can give your life to the Lord and watch and see how your life changes. I'm not going to tell you it happens right away, because it don't. But certain changes will happen right away. If you believe, when you pray, if you drop to your knees and you believe that the Lord can take things from you, your mindset will change. The way you look at things will change. I pray all you can experience this change in your life because of the Lord. I give it all to my God now. And I pray that you can do the same. And watch how He blesses you in return. Listen, man, I hope my testimony can touch your heart, can open your eyes, and hopefully you can give your life to the Lord as well. And I pray this in Jesus Christ's holy and beautiful name, through the power of God our Father. Amen. God bless you all. Have a blessed day.